to bring the summer conversation full circle, the developers and the property owner aren't asking for any changes right now. They just wanted the committee to be aware that at some point in time they'll be approaching the Plan Commission and the board to talk about how the mix of transitional and business will work, because this might get swirled through planning and development based on where they can build, what the demand is. Certainly if there's more demand for REACH, for example, at Myers, 25 acres is about what you need to get one of those.
Yep.
And they may want to go right in the middle for purposes of parking and traffic. We just don't know the answers to those questions.
Totally hypothetical.
Yeah, I just pulled out of thin air. It's the first thing I could have used Menards.
Might have liked you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you start using IKEA.
Right.
So, well, right here around the M and the E, there's the depression.
Yes.
That might turn out to be a wetland.
And we also
Right.
have to do some work. We think there's a wetland right in the middle of the
Yeah.
site. But beyond the changes that we've talked about so far, staff has no additional changes or things that we want to bring up for the committee's attention. The area that's zoned industrial, we propose to leave as is. The areas that's zoned for the larger lot, whatever it is on the map beyond what we've discussed, unless there's property owners who want to talk about their parcels with the committee, we're proposing everything else to stay the same. And that includes the summer at this point. So really all we were talking about was the mixed-use district itself and then the DeBack property.
I know there's some properties, owners from down in the southern edge regions of the district or area. Again, the thought process was when we did this plan in 2009, that was kind of mirrored the prior plans for the village, put the little higher intensity land uses with the multifamily in these areas. This corner might be a candidate for the high intensity land use at corner, long term.
That's Racine
50
County.
years long.
Might not even ever happen.
That's Racine County?
That's Racine County.
That's Racine County.
Right.
Who knows? You know, that type of thing, or both corners.
Jason, you have a question?
I said, pulling back from a few meetings ago, and we had mentioned industrial and expanding that boundary. And is this not? I thought we were talking
Expanding the industrial park?
Yeah, it was moving in another direction or more. What? So when you say we're not doing anything to change that, I guess
It doesn't mean we're not doing anything. It just means we're not asking for a change in the land designation. Right now, the village industrial park road runs.
it's
right about-
box or something.
Correct.
The road, yeah.
Is that something we should take care of?
Bruce, stop moving!
Stop, Bruce, stop.
There's a short, yeah, so there's
That's exciting.
Yeah, so Dewey Drive, they would be all in
Next
here.
year, yeah, you're right.
All in here. And this used to be a different color, but then they changed it to industrial. So the future plan, we're doing a feasibility study on is there enough market to bring the road down and run it parallel to the railroad tracks to create the next leg of the industrial park.
We
The
don't
land
need
zone.
to do that today.
It's already zoned appropriately for
Or
it.
plan.
Plan for it, sorry, plan. It's already
Right,
planned.
was just, because we said
Not
do
doing
nothing, we had talked about doing something.
Yeah, I know,
I was trying to make sure we were.
yeah, do nothing with the right thing.
Keeping us on
Leave
track.
it.
Excuse me?
A dead end down there, where are you gonna hook up to? You start running down off
Mhm. Mhm.
dead end to the railroad track?
To start,
Oh,
to start. And again, it all depends on what the feasibility study brings back. We have a theoretical map for a road that comes in cul-de-sac somewhere in here. But that's all it is an idea right now, and we're having it studied.
are you gonna put a spur in there? They wanted to put a spur.
A railroad spur?
Well,
If enough business wants
I would
it.
sign for it.
Mm-hmm.
They want to run a
That's outside of it.
spur in there, yours, man.
It's outside.
What's that?
That's outside.
Sure.
I think that's kind of outside. We are looking at that for the future, but I don't think it's.
It doesn't necessitate any changes in the land use.
It's not for our decision making.
Any other comments from the committee on this area about changing land use categories? You know, we have, now 3 different land use categories for multifamily, several options for business land use, more intense, less intense. Any other thoughts here, along 83?
Again, that's always perfectly acceptable.
I just have a comment, not specifically on that, but where there is some housing, we have to think about transition, remember? Because we've got business backing right up to residential, so as we move, it's not something that has to be decided today, but just so, you know, have to notice that, that's gonna come into play.
You deal with that a lot on the planning commission.
Yeah, John, you're talking this area right
Right. And we did start to discuss that land, I guess you call it to the east.
I've got 1,000 feet along that line.
Wait, Oriana,
I'm working under, yeah, then, I own in 2 lots on the backside of where the person is.
These two?
No, one more.
These two.
There you go.
Okay.
And I got 1,000, it's 1,000 feet approximately at once.
So if that's transitional residential today, what zoning classification does that relate to, Bruce? Is that R10?
R5,
R5?
the low density multifamily.
So what that means is currently this property, if it were built multifamily, would be capped out at 5 units per acre. And to give you an idea of what that is, what would that be? We have a development in our community.
Is that up by the Quick Trip?
Yeah, the Glen.
The Glen condos would be an example of what 5 per acre looks like. Whispering Bay is an example of what about 5 per acre looks like. So that's what that is. Other questions? Otherwise, I would suggest you can take another round from property owners who may have not spoken up or have questions.
Well, what I can do is, if I don't hear any of the comments, we can make changes to this map based on what we've discussed already. Not that you're totally endorsing it, and bring it back to you next time for further review. And so you see how the maps, the colors in the mix in there.
I would like to see a clean map once we're done.
I totally concur, yes, that's what I thought you would want to see.
Okay, so
We're
that's-
closing in on it.
We won't take action, we're just gonna charge you with bringing that map back, and then we'll
Yes.
vote on that then when we come back next.
We would take a public comment on it,
Mm-hmm.
in its completed form.
We'll try to have that map maybe available for the open house,
Okay.
so that people can react.
We should be able to get a big one done too.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the time. We'll have our engineer print a, so it'll be the same size as our normal, it'll be large like that.
Any other comments, questions of us right now?
Anybody?
Do you want a motion to direct you to change the map as presented?
No, okay,
That's fine.
John asked if there's a motion, I think he just gave me direction.
To do the same
Perfect.
thing.
Yeah, right. So that everybody understand, what was just stated at the next meeting, which is July 7th, we'll bring back a map for, discuss what they changed, and to fit all the colors in correctly with the land use recommendations. And we'll also have that map available at the open house on July 28th.
June 28th.
Excuse me, June 28th, right? The next meeting is July 7th, of the committee, right, June 28th.
Okay.
So that's on Tuesday, not Thursday? Because Thursday's the 30th.
The open house is a Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday. okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not meeting on the 30th,
Right.
4th of July weekend.
Just want to make sure the open house wasn't on Thursday, I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did say it wrong the first time.
I did say so.
He said it wrong the first time.
Thank you.
So I was trying to clarify.
I went and looked at my calendar, but I didn't say it.
Yeah.
All right. So we got, item number 6, then John Bruce. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Let's move on to number 7, talk about the southwest area.
Okay, let me just go quickly to the map of the southwest area. Again, the orange color is the highlighted area that we consider the southwest. This is I-43, Honeywell, Stone School Road. This is Main Street, still the village, Concord Highway ES. All this property, and here's the Canadian National Railroad track. All this property is either in the village right now or ultimately will be in the village, with the boundary being with each soil. So we, there's a need to at least plan for it. The boundary line right now is sort of, comes out here, kind of janks in and out, or meanders is a better term, and then comes out this way, so this area in here is in the village. This, on the other side of 43, this area is in the village. This isn't right now, right there, but, and all this property still remains in the town of East Troy as I'm moving the cursor right there. So we'll go back to the land use, where the northern edge, in fact, this little triangular piece wedged between the interstate and the railroad track is owned by the town of Mukwonago. I think they got it in a tax sheriff's sale years ago. And this property is shown here as multifamily right now. It's zoned R3 transitional. If you might have a map. We clarified this. The zoning map shows R10, but we clarified it recently with the help of a property owner, assistance of the property owner, and it was rezoned to R3. And then this is Mukwonago Baptist Church, and they own a lot of property here. I know several people representing the church that are here this evening. Will speak about their plans for this area. They have a cemetery that's in the town as well. You might see on this map, base map, because this is Walworth County, so on this base map, the tax key numbers show up, which didn't in Waukesha County. And the VM means Village of Mukwonago. And the A's mean it's in the town of East Troy. Or, I don't know what that A means, but I know that PP, East Troy. So, there's Village of Mukwonago right there, Village of Mukwonago. Who owns a lot of the property here, just so you know, is Wendell Schultz of the Schultz family, and Kevin owns several properties in here as well, their son, who farms the land as well. We talked before about this area north of the Miramar subdivision. The Miramar subdivision will remain in the town of Mukwonago for the boundary agreement. So the boundary, see the blue dotted line, that's the... That's it, yeah. What is it? What? What is it? Oh, okay, town of East Troy. And then, too many communities I'm thinking about. And then all this area here will be within the ultimate boundary of the village. The dotted blue line, which does show the ultimate village boundary, except the railroad track also shows up as a dotted blue line. So the village will not have area for the boundary south of L, or the small lots and companies. There's a couple industries there and homes. At Beulah Station, that will not be in the village as well. That will not be an issue. Questions, comments, concerns? I also want to address for a moment, because we do show on our official map of the village, an official map, you have that with you, but official map, which is another planning tool that the village has to plan out land development. It shows potential road systems, and we chose this official map that was approved a few years ago to show major roads, major new streets, patterns, like that street here. So whatever happens here with the land use pattern, the official map will also have to be amended as well. And it also shows parkland, where we'll have parkland in the future, and also shows the areas that are unincorporated that will be in the village ultimately. This is the Summers property, I should have showed you this before, this also shows the Summers property. When this map was done a few years ago, it wasn't in the village at the time, but now it is. Main thing, and I know the representatives from Quantico Baptist Church have talked to us a lot about this road going between Stonesville Road or Honeywell and a potential road coming down from Dewey Drive or extension of Dewey Drive for a potential crossing a railroad or a bridge over a railroad to get an east-west route in this area of the community south of the interstate. Basically for emergency purposes. Because south of here, you have to drive all the way down to Elm. And, you know, especially, and if we do get industrial land in this area, industrial development, you'd like to have multiple ways in and out from the fire station and the police department to get there.
Can you point that out on the larger screen?
Sure.
Is that Dewey Drive going to be a 2-lane highway, or is it going to be bigger?
Right now it's an 80-foot.
2-lane?
And Dan, right? Dan represents the property owner who owns this property right here. That's owned, I said, is zoned R3. That's just north of Quantico Baptist Church. And that road is planned to come in right through here. And there, the Quantico Baptist Church representatives have talked to us about not putting that road in, or maybe planning it to bring it further south across. We have talked about it separate from the comprehensive plan. Several months ago, we talked about it at a staff level with police and fire, public works, engineering, and we looked at potentially deviating that planned road, but thought because there's, again, environmental area in here, topography gets in here. This is a, I forget my geography from grade school. It's either Esther or King, but some type of glacial landform, or drumlin. So actually probably drumlin again.
Hills.
Pardon?
They're hills.
Then yes, through here. And we are talking about potentially a railroad spur. If the railroad spur comes in here, but that's not part of the land use plan, but it impacts the road system. We don't want a east-west route, a public street, have to cross the railroad spur because it's more expense for a bridge. And we would think that Canadian National, or any railroad for that matter, doesn't want any more railroad crossings. So essentially a bridge would have to be put in over there. Staff still supports retaining that east-west route in the official map, just so you know, as far as it relates to land use. Questions?
Are there any proposed changes right now?
That was my question. Who do we know? Do we know that there are property owners who want to talk about?
Well, Mr. Barnhill, who is a member of the church, is interested in purchasing this property. I know it's for sale.
That's the R3 area?
The R3, yes, he's interested in that. But he would like to remain it in the current land use of agricultural, keep it in the current land use of agricultural. And put some buildings on it. He could keep it agricultural, that's no problem. It's grandfathered in as far as the land use. But then as soon as he starts putting buildings in there, the buildings have to conform to the current R3 zoning, which doesn't allow agricultural style buildings. So if you wait to rezone it back to agricultural, then the plan has to be changed.
So he wants to put in agricultural buildings.
Yes, basically,
Storage.
well, not barns, but
Machinery shed. And goats,
Oh,
and
okay.
chickens.
Got it.
No pigs.
I remember now, we talked about this a little bit.
yeah, here's where we really get the the committee makes this big buck, so it's a big thing. You're not making any money, I know that. They're all volunteering at the time. Yeah. Except, okay, maybe we put on our long-term thinking hats here. We've talked about it before, and we'll get into this in other key areas of the village. There's not a lot of single-family land left in the village for new single-family. Based on the boundary agreements, yes, there's some left in the northeast area, east of the Fox River that we'll get to in several weeks, in the northeast area. Sewer and water is not available in this area right now. Sewer has to come in from the east, actually through maybe the industrial park, if we develop the industrial park, because of just the lay of the land. Sewer flows like water and follows having a hard time talking anymore, getting tongue-tied. Sewer follows topography, and just like stormwater does. So it has to come from this direction, from the northeast, to serve this area. Because of this hill in this area, if the village can't serve this whole area, both sides of the track with a public water supply or part of the village water system, but there has to be a water tower put here or a high pressure system put in here to get the water from one side of the hill to the other, south of these hills that go through here. The blue, as you see, that's all the land that the church's property, or it has under control when we had the land done. And the yellow is what we currently call the small lot single family, or 15,000 square foot lots, and large lot single family, and this is the medium lot single family area as I talked about before on the other side of, or east side of Stone School Road. Questions?
Yeah, what are the options then? If he wants to keep it as agricultural use but put buildings on it, what options? If the committee wanted to do that, what do they do?
That's the question. It should go into some type of agricultural land use or a large lot agricultural land use category. But does that, I'm not saying one way or the other, I'm just looking at what potential reactions to doing that. I think it's doable, but does that box the village in from?
Is what doable?
Yeah, large lot, single family, agricultural, or does that box us in with not getting the proper flow, or we have leapfrog development further to the south on the other side of Stone School Road in the future, when sewer might ever get there?
So you're saying that this is really the only area where we could get a road to get to that part of Stone School Road?
According to what staff recommended, yes, we looked at it.
Yes and no. You can build almost anything you want, but it becomes financially unfeasible once you have to climb the elevation and move farther south.
Remember too, that there's ditches on that farmland too.
Is there an agreement that you can come to with an access and
There's ditches.
part of his development plan for dwellings? So you can sort of work in
So-
an easement?
First, explain this to me. So if let's just say they said, okay, make it large lot agricultural, how does that prohibit putting the roads on that? Or does it not?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
So are you concerned about the fact that there would be this patch of brown in between the?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but then if the buildings go in, if the buildings would have to be moved. And the issue with the road is more from the church side to the south.
Okay. There's
some buildings currently in the way with that as well. With that.
What buildings are those?
Owned by a private property owner that's affiliated with the church. Behind here and back in this area.
Is this the nursery looking thing?
Yes.
So-
Yeah.
So what's the largest downside then, if they just rezone that to the agricultural large single?
Well, one thing I'd like to ask the representative of the property owner here today too, the downside, okay, this is a reverse thing that we talked about in the previous hour, where if we plan for an occurrence, what if it doesn't happen? And then somebody else comes in and they want to put, they have the wherewithal to bring the sewer in and want to put a development on that property, they'd have to come in for an amendment to the comp plan. And, you know, when the comp plan is still, maybe still, the ink isn't dry, that happens a lot, but how willing is the village going to be to change?
10 years from now?
Comp plan, when we just changed it.
Sure.
So this could be another one of these slash properties, as I was talking about.
I guess we could do that. From my understanding, other communities like the designation of agricultural because it's an easier transition when you do change. So if you do, say, single family, and then you want to go to commercial or something, it's kind of it's a real drastic change. But if you're going to stick with an ag, and then try and go commercial, or then try and go single family, it's an easier transition. So I'm wondering if agricultural is fine, and then you guys work out your details with your building and potential easements or anything like that, and that's not this committee's decision potentially, but.
Historically, the policy has been agriculturally planned land or zoned land has been a holding zone basically for future development when land is annexed. Not that we can't change that policy. I'm not saying that we have to stick with the policy, but people that have been around here a long time have told me that was been the policy for decades.
Some of that land down there has got drainage ditches all around.
Where was that?
Yeah.
So as far as that road needing to someday go across, we really are talking 10 years, Fred? 8? I mean,
Who knows?
it could,
I mean, that's the speculation, right? I mean, we just
Right.
speculate.
I don't see
I
it
think
being
when
a
they went to
short-term
R3 though,
project.
I think the idea was that it was the transition for apartments to be along the interstate.
Sure.
And then the transition was also because there was somebody at that time who was looking at putting single families to the west of Honeywell. And the issue of getting the sewer and water under the freeway was a consideration for up in that end.
Could we do
But
something?
I think that if we were to change it back again, part of the problem is gonna be is he's not gonna pay to have sewer and water run that distance from Honeywell to connect up to Dewey Drive.
Right.
That's gonna just be prohibitive for him to do that, to do an agricultural thing in that small zone. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, it just would be too costly, so you would have to tie it in with the single family and, the larger lots as you go down, like you were showing on the map earlier. So I don't see it, and then also the idea of if he has buildings there, he's gonna need sewer, and we don't allow him to build septics or a well, we're not gonna let him drill a well. Those are all things that have to be, you know, you should be thinking about those types of things as well. And then changing the zoning from R3 back to agricultural, I think you are tying up that other property to the west of Honeywell and south considerably by doing that.
Say that one more time, just so.
I think you're tying up the land to the west and south along Honeywell if you start changing.
By tying it up, you mean an agricultural use doesn't generate the revenue to pay for what it's gonna cost to bring the road across?
Yeah, I don't see how.
So it's landlocking.
Yeah, I think you're restricting the ability of those people that, whoever in the future would look at those lands, as we're already looking at them to put up, you know, whether it's.
Does that make sense to the group? Okay.
Thank you.
There's an observation.
Well, it does seem, not to say anything against the church, but the church's property is like a big wall. And you know, you have to take that in consideration in future planning.
Mhm.
That's probably not gonna change. And so, you're right, to develop any of that land around there, and that's what we're here to talk about. How do you get there? We can't go to the, what I would call the south, the east. It's environmentally impossible, so you've gotta go through that area.
And you also talk about, we're concerned about traffic. As you develop the lands along Honeywell or Stone School Road, you're pushing all those cars down Honeywell Road, down ES, down to Bayview and back up the freeway on the backside. Whereas if you eventually get that road in there, sooner rather than later, you're providing an access point for everything that's developed there, plus whatever else is there now that's using that road for
To go
traffic.
straight to 83 and then to 43.
Right, so you're actually, and you mentioned earlier about the access for emergency vehicles to access things.
Mhm.
Right now, if we have a crash and it ties up one of the interstate on-ramps or off-ramps or a bridge across the interstate, the vehicles have to go all the way down Honeywell to L and then back up 83, where a road straight across there connecting to Dewey Drive would be better for safety.
Other thoughts? We've kind of heard two.
I'd like to hear from the gentleman who was representing the family, just on his thoughts.
Personally, obviously, the seller wants to sell the land. Can you explain to me the difference between the R10 and the R3 zoning?
Just density right now.
There's density, and what is the difference between the two?
Right now, about 3 units per acre. Proposed in the plan, about 5 units per acre.
You know, by zoning I don't have an issue of allowing that additional use for Mr. Barnhill in the future if he does get an interest in the property, which currently he does not. My concern would be if there's not saleable land around a future roadway, who is going to be funding the roadway to come through, which I would imagine is going to be a tip of excellent financing district for it. But if you have ag land there, there's not going to be anything.
So you're representing the landowner.
The landowner of the property.
Okay. And
What?
you are a potential purchaser.
I haven't.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
but only if it goes to A1.
Okay.
I currently have a.
And
farm.
so what I'm hearing you say is you actually like the designation that it currently is?
Well, yes, anytime you reverse zoning, it lowers value of the property.
Gotcha.
I hate to have a zoning change for one user that currently doesn't have an interest in the property.
So does your client have an opinion on the current zoning? Does this person want to keep it?
I didn't know that this question would be specifically asked today. I just showed up on when this came across my desk this morning, so.
Okay.
I can ask them to get a formal statement back.
Would that be okay with the committee if they reached out to the property owner?
In general, anytime you reverse zoning or remove the ability to create a higher density development.
I can assume that's the conversation you'll be having with your client on the phone, anytime you reverse zone something? Okay. Okay. So,
I have a question here.
yeah,
I would say, in regards to your comment about who would pay for the road, it's not uncommon for a municipality to put in a street and underground, and then special assess as the property comes online. So if we had the actual need to do this, the village in the past has set up a road, and then when people buy into it, or they put up their apartments, or they put up their single families, or the developer comes on, once they come online, then they reimburse the village through a special assessment for that property. So it is a doable thing. It's not that necessarily the developer has to put in the entire road. They would put in a certain section of the road, and then the village would take care of the balance of it, and then as other people came online, they would pay for the road
it
as a
sounds like it
special
becomes
assessment.
much more unlikely when you reverse zone, is when you're trying to.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just trying to state that, it's like, no, this guy wouldn't have to pitch out $3 million for a roadway.
Right.
It's like, no, this section of the roadway, and if we have to have a bridge, well then, the village is gonna have to figure out how to pay for that with, hopefully with the state of Wisconsin, because it's a railroad, but it's not an impossibility, is what I'm trying to.
With the topography that is there, I understand, not done a design for it, but it's difficult with the R10 zoning, which I think for a developer to fully fund a road amount of buildable land that is on the, I was getting that stuff, on the north side, of the church there. It's just, there isn't that much. If there's 40 acres there, it's a lot.
So then the committee would like, you want to have a statement from the property owner, right, before you move forward in any direction with this?
Absolutely, I can get that.
Does the perspective, do you have anything to add as the prospective purchaser?
Other than, Guanago only has one freeway entrance and exit. And if you were to consider, you still got property that's pretty vacant, if you were to shoot on that lower, you would have a freeway, you'd be able to connect to ES, and then back over, and then you might be able to go easier with a, overpass because of the higher ground on that lower one. So that's my only comment about moving that down to the, to that other one there. So then you can gain a freeway exit, entrance and exit.
Okay, then if you could send a statement or however your client wants to get that to us, so we can get to the committee.
Is there anything else here in the southwest corner here?
Yeah, but just moving on, we didn't cover the other side of 43, which is also within this study area. This is the Orchards of Aquatico subdivision, and Klaus lives about right over here.
Right on the line there.
Right in the line there?
Yeah, go down, right next to the Elegant Farmers land.
Right here, okay. Okay.
Don't come out visiting tonight.
I think we should put the high density multifamily right there. Anyways, okay. Farmer, he calls him Farmer Dan, but Dan Shield was here earlier this evening, I think, right? He's left. He still owns interest in his land. I tell you the truth, I thought he sold his interest in the Elegant Farmer, but he still owns the land over on this side. He did call me, we did talk, have a brief conversation. He didn't really say what the land uses would be, other than say that he's going to be here tonight. As I go further down this area, we do show that as transitional residential, again, because between the major interstate and a county highway. So we thought that would be a logical land use in this part of the community that's not in the village right now, but will be ultimately. So we kind of have single family wedged in here, and this is a church. I don't remember the name of the church.
I think it's New Life.
Yes.
And on the other side here, of course, here's the Elegant Farmer, and we have this all zoned as planned and zoned for business. And this is the phase over here that's under construction.
And what's going in there?
More than 26 homes.
I own the house and build business next to the Elegant Farmer, but KH Water Specialist.
Yes.
What is that zone for there?
Commercial right now.
For commercial?
Yeah.
Will I be annexed in?
Ultimately, yes.
Is there a time frame on that? No.
No, it's at your request.
At my request?
Is that the same?
Not our request,
sole
here.
development subdivided? There, okay, so there's, to give you the full explanation, there's a few kickers.
Yeah.
One, you asked, right? The other one is if it's sold for development or subdivided. So essentially, the way the agreement is designed is if the current use is maintained and the parcel isn't changing hands, its current use will stay, and it will stay outside of the village. And then if it's, like I said, it's either subdivided, sold for development, or you ask, those would be the conditions under which it could be annexed into the village.
But if I just sell it to somebody, it doesn't necessarily get annexed in?
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Because selling it to someone who's going to use it for the same use you are would be different than selling it to, say, I don't know,
Yeah.
IKEA, right? That's what we're using.
Well, they can buy it. I have no
Right.
problem.
Then it would.
I don't think it's big enough.
No, I don't think so.
So essentially, we're not recommending any change to land use here, but we thought we'd just take a look at that to see if there's any needs and, solicit input from the property owners. If they had any thoughts about what else could occur in this area.
It doesn't really generate the traffic for high-intensity commercial or retail. And again, as you can see with the shape of the parcels, That's why we felt that they lend themselves to transitional housing in the
It
single
looks like
family.
it would be residential to me. I don't see it being anything other than that.
Do you guys have a time frame on running water and sewer further?
No.
Like, I mean, if that transitional down there towards the bottom, if that develops, you'll run water and sewer past?
If we would have somebody come forward and they purchased it and said, okay, we've got this plan and this is what we need, we'd review it at that time.
Okay.
Because we do have a well up there, and there is, I believe there is a possibility of taking care of it that way. It's just getting over the freeway that's part of the problem.
No, I mean, on the other side.
Right, I know which side, the side you're saying is but they got the little lines on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions from the committee, thoughts about the parcels?
So that there's no proposal of a change of any sort?
No, this area is taking care of itself in terms of residential, and the way that the interstate is starting to experience its commercial growth, the orchards is gonna fill that out. And we'll see, this isn't gonna happen anytime soon, and that's mostly an effect of, it's very expensive to pull water and sewer that distance.
Just so you know, we had talked long and hard for the original phase of Orchards to be able to put a connection in there, but we acquiesced, is that the, I can't talk fast. I need more water, sometimes. But, I wish we would have had a road in there because then we could have a connection there, if and when this ever redevelops for single family.
Is Mr. Heitman's lot 66 feet wide? Do you need the...
No, but there's a gravel road right up my backyard, you can use that.
Is the church in the village?
No.
No.
They,
You can see here, see part of this is in the village, these two properties aren't. But that's in the village, that's in the village.
How do you draw lines like that? Do you like, do that on a cocktail napkin at the bar, or?
I don't know how lines get.
CSMs that then get transposed into this system, yeah.
No, that wasn't even, I think that occurred even before this land was in the village. Don't know.
Okay.
The village would not have approved a landlocked property like that. We would not approve that. I know that.
The little sliver that you said that the village bought on like a land sale?
Oh, the town?
Yeah, the town. Where is that again?
Oh, it's about 35, this is proper right here. And it goes on both sides of the track, so actually,
Okay.
It's an environmental corridor, it'll be
Okay.
undeveloped
Alright.
in perpetuity, and you can't do anything with it.
yeah, this is Legend Mile, Bell's Apartments, this is McCarthy property. And now I'm looking at this in more detail. From time to time, McCarthy's have talked to us, but they didn't bring it up tonight. I'm sorry, I didn't think of this earlier. So we could I'll bring this up, I'm sure they're gonna stop in and talk to me about this. So, I'll ask them, they had mentioned maybe multifamily on this little sliver, in this extending Fair Pass Court.
We can get that over there.
Because there's a wetland and floodplain through there that's actually wider now than shown on this map. So it's a little
Very hard to develop.
Yeah, so that putting industrial there is probably not the most feasible right now.
And plus there's not two exits.
Right.
Yeah.
Egress or exit, there's only
So
one.
if they want to put more multifamily in there, that wouldn't be the worst thing in that area. Although their son farms it, and no problem with him continuing farming it.
With that, we have, unless the committee has other, yeah, we have our list.
I guess the only thing I'd say maybe to suggest a follow-up is with, if you followed up with the McCarthy's on that parcel, just included it in the draft with the statement from them or something. So
Which
we
parcel?
can- The one right there.
We're just talking about
Okay.
Just come back with a statement from them in a conversation,
Mhm.
then we can complete the map and do the same with that information,
Mhm.
work it out and bring it back.
Sure,
Then we can move to call it complete,
sure.
and if you guys work out something, and too, I guess. It's just trying to put a wrap on something.
Okay, so then the goal would be based on the comments we received back from the McCarthy's and the other, I I only know landowners, who should I refer to the parcel as?
MLG.
I'm not, okay, this is,
It's Gardino.
okay. We'll bring the map to the next meeting with the colors filled in as appropriate based on the conversations, and then we can take a look at it.
Great,
Makes sense.
okay. So we'll vote on those things, to kick off our next meeting then, if we have some discussion on that. That's the
Yes.
plan?
Yes,
Okay,
July 7th?
very good.
And June 28th for the open house. Yep.
We got public comments coming up.
Yep,
If anybody
anybody-
wants.
Anybody have a public comment they'd like to make?
Or we can.
Come on, Tom, make use of the public comments. I'm just kidding, what's really?
I'm looking forward to the next meeting.
All right,
What's the next area we're talking about?
so as we talked about, at the next meeting, we'll, hold on, real quick, just wrap things up and we'll call it a day. We will, like I said, talk about finishing this business here. And then the agenda next time is to talk about the north and northeast section of the village. Obviously, I think there's a lot of things that can be talked about, maybe that's part of the reason why we're here right now, is for that. So if you know people that are in that part of the village, seek out their comments, seek out their opinions, come equipped, so we can have a good discussion and get the best outcome for everyone. Okay? So yeah, we'll meet back on July 7th. I just want to say real quick to the committee, this has got going a lot slower than we thought, and I just really want to say thank you for your efforts and your patience. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge everything that you guys are doing. This is really important work for the village, and I think this will have an effect for years and years to come. So thank you for what you're doing, don't lose sight of that. And with that, I make a motion to adjourn. Second. Oh, I'm sorry, is there any other comments?
Just close, okay.
All right. Jason, you want to second that? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
Happy Father's Day to the fathers, happy 4th of July. Enjoy the fest this weekend here, summer fest.
Time taker.